What is up, guys? Thank you so much for being here. So about a year ago, maybe it's been more now, but I bought a pretty premium rifle and I've had it for a little while now, but I hadn't actually put an optic on it yet. I've been waiting and then doing some research in the meantime of like what kind of red dot I wanted, because I knew I wanted a red dot. I just didn't know like exactly what kind, but I knew I wanted a red dot and I knew I wanted it to be pretty small and compact, because the point of this rifle that I have is that it's supposed to be really like lightweight and something that you can just kind of take backpacking or hiking. Since the rifle is lightweight, I wanted my red dot to be small and compact and lightweight as well. But at the same time, I wanted it to be very premium and like a good, reliable, tough, just good red dot. I already own a Vortex Spark 2, which is a fairly small red dot. It's not super small, but it's still pretty small. And I didn't really want to get another one of the same, and I kind of wanted something even smaller. And so I know there's those little like Bushnell ones that are pretty dang small. Anyways, there's a few different ones, even Holosun has some, but they just weren't small enough, and I guess I was like wanting more of like a pistol style red dot. And so as you guys probably already know if you watch YouTube, those little small like pistol red dots, those little reflex sights, have become super popular and everybody's putting them on all their handguns. And so I decided to do some research and start seeing like, well, maybe I can get one of those and put it on my rifle. And I realized that that was actually becoming pretty common. And so I've seen it a little bit here and there, but I didn't realize how popular that actually was for people who want like a small compact red dot, because those little red dots are becoming so reliable and tough that people can put them on an AR or a shotgun. So then I was on a mission to try and figure out what was the absolute best like small micro red dot that you would put on a pistol that I could put onto my rifle for a reasonable price. And what I thought I was gonna end up going with was this little Vortex Venom, and it's one of those small pistol red dots that's very reliable and has some modern features and all that. But there was just some things I didn't like about it, but for the price it was great, because it was, I think, like $230, which is around the price that you're gonna have to pay for a good, reliable one. And in my opinion, if you're gonna get one of those small micro red dots, you better get a good one, or else it's not gonna last long. If I wanted to get something more expensive, then I could go with like a Trijicon RMR, but those ones, I mean, starting it's like $500, but they also have like some other models of the RMR that are like $550, $570, and that's like the Amazon price, which is typically around the cheapest you're gonna find it. But then even with the RMR, there are certain things I didn't like. I mean, one being the price, but then also just, I guess I have a problem with reflex sights in general, because I don't like the idea that it's a little projector basically projecting that onto the glass, the red dot, and if it were to land in mud or if it was snowing heavily and it got on that little projector, then you're not gonna be able to see your red dot. You're not gonna have anything. And so then, you know, it kind of brought me back to, well, that's why I want a fully enclosed red dot, but then those are too big, so I was flip-flopping back and forth. All right, let me wrap up this story because it's starting to drag on, but the only reason I'm telling you guys all this is so you can realize that I did a ton of research. Anyways, I then realized that Aimpoint made like a micro reflex sight, like the kind that go on pistols, that's fully enclosed. And I thought that was like the coolest thing. And even though it looked a little clunky or whatever, but I thought that that was what I wanted. But then of course the price, because it's Aimpoint. So it was $600. And that's just like the starting price. And so I was like, man, $600, that's a lot. I wouldn't want to spend like over, I don't know, like $400 is like the absolute max, and it would have to have everything that I wanted. And then I found this little guy. This is the Holosun 509T, and it's basically exactly what I wanted. It's a micro red dot meant for pistols, but strong enough and tough enough to be able to run on anything. It's smaller and more lightweight than the Aimpoint Acro, which is their version of this, but yet it's, I guess I can't say more tough, but in my opinion it has better features and it's more affordable. I haven't used it a lot yet, so I can't say it's more tough. Plus Aimpoint is just known for being basically bomb proof. All their stuff is just super tough. But Holosun has started to really build a strong reputation for their stuff not being cheap whatsoever, and people are realizing that it's very reliable and it isn't just some new brand anymore, because it's been around for a while now and they're just putting out good products. Now this is the first Holosun product that I've owned, but I want to explain why I legitimately think that this guy is the best micro red dot or reflex sight that's currently available when you take into account everything from the features to the price. So let's get into it. Okay, so I've got some notes on my phone here, that way we can just read through all the specs pretty quickly and then I can just basically talk about why I like it so much. So it's got a fully enclosed titanium housing, which that right there makes it better to me than some of these more expensive ones. They cost more, but they're not made from titanium, and so this is going to be stronger, but yet it weighs 1.72 ounces, which is smaller than just, for example, the Aimpoint Acro, which is somehow heavier and bigger than this guy. And so obviously one of the benefits with it being fully enclosed is the fact that you don't have to worry about anything ever getting on the little emitter that's gonna project the dot onto the glass there. And another big benefit that lots of people don't think about is when it is fully enclosed like this and this is nitrogen filled, you don't have to worry about fogging. And so I actually watched some videos and reviews where people stuck this in the freezer and then went outside into like the hot, like summer heat, and it still wouldn't fog up. I'm not saying it's common or happens all the time, but in certain weather conditions, if you're carrying and it's getting all hot and then you pull out your little pistol with the reflex sight, that glass can then fog up if it's very cold outside or whatever. And so it's just something to think about. It's submersive, so it's got an IP67 rating. So if it falls in the water or whatever, you don't have to worry about that. Storage temperature of -40 Celsius to 70 Celsius, and a functioning working temperature of -30 Celsius to 60 Celsius. And I'll convert that to Fahrenheit because I don't really know what that is. And obviously this is a true 1x magnification, so it's a true red dot. And it's got all kinds of multi-coatings to help prevent glare and that kind of thing. It's obviously parallax free. The reticle is red. And speaking of the reticle, one of the things I really like is it's a 2 MOA dot, but it also has a 32 MOA circle. And so like I wanted something that I could use for precision. With a 2 MOA dot, obviously you can use that for precision, shooting a little farther. But then if you want something for just like up close, maybe home defense, self-defense situation, or even just like training, like say you're just training with different steel targets and you want to be able to transition quickly, then something like a 32 MOA circle around that precise dot is just gonna make it that much faster to acquire. So it'll be fun because you can acquire the dot real quick with that larger circle. But another nice feature is if you don't want that circle, maybe it's distracting when you are trying to aim at something really far away, well, you can have just the dot, or you can have the dot and the circle. So again, that's a feature that you don't have on some of these even more expensive red dots. The last couple things about the reticle is you have 10 different like daylight brightness levels, and then you have 2 night vision levels, so those are super dim. I don't have any night vision, so I won't be using those. So those don't really matter to me, but it is nice having those 10 different brightness levels for outdoors. That way, if you're solely gonna have this as like a home defense weapon, then you're gonna be indoors mostly and you don't really wanna have it super bright. But if you're gonna be out in the middle of the summer in the sunlight, then you are gonna need to use one of those brighter settings. And so it's just nice that it has all that. And then battery life, because that's a big deal, right? You don't want something that's not gonna last you very long and you go to pick it up and it's dead. So you want something that has a pretty decent battery life. The battery life on this is up to 50,000 hours, which is just ridiculous. And you know, that's on one of the lower settings. And so you might say, well, I'm not gonna use it on a lower setting. I'm always gonna have it on a higher setting. Well, this has a couple of awesome features that's gonna make it last super long, even if you have it on the max setting. And so what those features are is one of them is an auto off. And I believe it's after 10 minutes. It might be 15, but I'm pretty sure it's 10 minutes of it not having any motion whatsoever. So I mean, you put the gun away in the safe or on the nightstand or whatever, well, now it's not gonna move for 10 minutes and then the reticle is just gonna turn off. But then when you go to pick it up, any motion that it senses, it automatically immediately turns on. And so you don't have to worry about, well, do I wanna turn off the reticle to conserve battery so it's not on 24 hours a day while I'm sleeping? Or do I wanna risk leaving it on 24 hours a day and then the day that I finally need it, I'm gonna pick it up and the battery's dead? And so this solves that problem because you could leave it on whatever brightness setting you want and you don't have to worry about it running out of battery overnight or while you're not using it. And when you go to pick it up, it's just gonna be ready. That reticle's gonna be on and ready no matter what. Now, obviously, every once in a while, it doesn't even have to be every year to be honest, but at least once a year, I would say you wanna just check it and make sure you're still running fine. But in theory, this thing's gonna last way longer than that. But then the other feature, which is like the fail-safe feature, is it has a solar panel on top, which to me is just super cool. I mean, you've already got the titanium housing, it's fully enclosed, multiple reticles, all these nice features, the auto off, and then all that. But then it's got a solar panel on top as a fail-safe. So then, if you are using it outdoors, I believe it charges that up. And so it's gonna have that extra power as a backup. If the battery does die, well, now you're running off of solar. So I mean, that's just super cool. So obviously there's tons of good features with this that make it better than some of the other options out there, at least in my opinion. But another one of those small things is the fact that the little battery, which by the way is a CR1632, and so they're pretty small batteries, but this has a little tray on the side and it's sealed off, so you don't have to worry about anything getting in there. Basically just open it up and then you can change it out. And that's nice because it is on the side, and so you don't have to take off the entire optic to be able to change the battery, because like the Trijicon RMR and some of the other ones, you have to take off the entire thing and change out the battery that's underneath. I mean, I get it, it's not a huge deal because you don't have to do it very often. Those things also last a super long time, and it's just not something you have to do often. But if I don't have to do it at all, then that's much better because I've already zeroed it on there and I don't want to have to re-zero it and all that. And so the fact that I can just leave it on there and change out the battery, it's just one more convenience. And that's just kind of how this thing seems to be, is it's just full of conveniences and features and technology, and it's cheap for what it is. Now, I haven't told you guys the price because it isn't cheap, but it is cheaper than some of the other options out there that I've been talking about. So the Aimpoint Acro is gonna cost you around 600 bucks, because I think it's $599, and some of the other versions of it might be more than that, I'm not really sure. The RMR is typically gonna be around 500 or 550 or more, depending on the model. And this guy is $407. At least that's what I saw it for on Amazon. Now, I was super lucky because I waited until my birthday, which is definitely one of the most expensive birthday presents I've ever gotten, but I'm super grateful. But if I was gonna spend my own money on a more premium red dot, this is the one that I was gonna buy anyways, because it has all those features we just mentioned. The fact that it's fully enclosed, titanium body, auto shut off and auto on when it senses movement. It changes battery from the side, multiple reticles, super long battery life, a solar panel, multiple brightness levels, night vision compatible, which I don't even own, but it's just another cool thing to have. Oh, and it does obviously have adjustment for windage and elevation, so you can get it sighted in. But if you're wondering how much, it's gonna be 30 MOA in both directions. So it's 1 MOA adjustments with a max of 30 MOA for the elevation and the windage. Now, some of you already know this, but for those of you that don't realize, this part is the red dot, and then this part down below is a base that I bought separately, and I'll explain why I bought this base in a second. But real quick, before I talk about the mount itself, I just want to mention that if you are interested in picking up this red dot for yourself, I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the description down below. That way you can just click on it and it'll take you straight to Amazon where you can buy it. And that's where I found it to be the cheapest. You might find it cheaper somewhere else, but $407. I believe the MSRP on this thing is like $500 something dollars, or right around 500. But some places sell it for like $420, $430. But I found it for $407.99, I think, and it was on Amazon, so I'll put that link. It's a convenience to you. I would appreciate it if you used it because I would get a small percentage from Amazon at no cost to you. So if you're interested in picking it up, There you go. And so even though these micro red dots are built to be able to be used on everything, they're mostly used on pistols, and so they don't send you a mount to be able to put it on a Picatinny rail, and oftentimes you have to go and buy a separate mount to be able to actually put it on a 1913 style rail. And so I went ahead and got this American Defense mount, which is a quick detach mount. It's a little bit more expensive, but the reason I got it is because I really trust them. I use an American Defense mount for my Trijicon AccuPower, which is on my Daniel Defense M4. So obviously I really trust these. There's not very many quick detach mounts out there that you can really trust to keep zero. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of cheap ones out there that'll attach and they'll have the lever like this to quick detach and take it off. But then when you go to put it back on, it doesn't keep the zero that you already had. And so you spent all that time getting the zero. I don't want a cheap quick detach mount, especially if I spend the money on a good red dot and a good rifle. I don't want to have a cheap mount that's going to make me have to re-zero every time. So I got this American Defense. It's made for the 509T, which is what this guy is, the Holosun 509T. My red dot just attaches straight to this, and I used a little bit of Loctite thread locker because I don't plan on taking this off of the mount itself. But then you don't have to use that on the mount because it's already, like, you don't have to unscrew anything. It just loosens up, and then you can adjust the tension level for your rail, and there you go. It just tightens on there. So then you can just take it off quickly for any reason. Whether you want to put it on something else, then obviously you would have to re-zero it at that point. But the main reason I use it is, say, for storing purposes or for cleaning purposes. Now, yeah, lots of people, they don't even get a quick detach mount because they're just gonna leave it on there when they clean it. But sometimes, I don't know, I'm a little messy, I guess, because sometimes like cleaning chemicals might get on the top side of the receiver, or like oil, if I put a little too much, sometimes the oil might drip down. And I just don't wanna worry about it getting on my optic. And so I'll take this off, clean the gun real good, wipe it down, and then I'll just throw this back on and it'll have its zero. And it still maintains a super lightweight, even though I've got a more robust system with this mount because the optic itself is just so lightweight. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you were able to see why the Holosun 509T is worth getting if you are really wanting like a more premium micro red dot. And if you like this kind of content, like anything that has to do with guns or backpack reviews or any kind of like outdoor gun or gear reviews, then definitely subscribe because I do a lot of that kind of content, even like EDC stuff, like knives and just all kinds of cool stuff. And do me a favor and hit the like button. It's a small, simple thing that you can do that really helps out my channel, so I would really appreciate that. But thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.